Beyond its philosophical elegance, the moral superiority of liberty can best be understood by its practical consequences. A society grounded in both political and economic freedom unleashes the human potential to rise, prosper, and cooperate in ways no central authority could ever replicate. Without liberty, the individual is boxed in by barriers not of his own making, barriers set by politicians or bureaucrats who presume to know better. True potential can only be realized when individuals are free to fail, free to learn, and free to try again. That is the soil in which character, competence, and creativity best grow. A society grounded in liberty does not promise equal outcomes. It promises equal opportunity, the freedom to rise by merit, not by connections or compliance. It is no coincidence that the greatest innovations, from Edison's light bulb to Ford's assembly line, emerged from an environment of economic freedom. A centralized authority rewards conformity. Liberty rewards initiative. The difference is moral, not just material. When the government steps aside and allows people to pursue their own goals, they often accomplish far more than any bureaucrat could have designed. Truly, liberty provides the most likely path to human flourishing. Consider the free market. Far from being a jungle of selfishness, as its critics would suggest, the free market is among the most moral institutions ever devised by mankind because it operates on the principles of mutual consent, voluntary exchange, and respect for private property. In a free market, you don't have to love your neighbor, but to get his dollars, you must serve him. You must provide him with something in return, more valuable than the money in his pocket. In that way, the purely selfish man becomes compelled to serve the purpose of his potential customers. No other system turns human self-interest into mutual benefit so consistently. Capitalism motivates the grocery store owner, who gets up at 5 a.m. to stock shelves and unlock the doors to do so, not because he's concerned about your orange juice shortage. He does it because he wants your money, and the only way to get it is by offering you value. That's not exploitation, that's civilization. Contrast that with government systems based on coercion. If you don't like the way Walmart operates, you can shop at Target or your local farmer's market. But try objecting to an IRS policy or a property tax bill and see how many options you have. The moral distinction between markets and government is one of choice versus force. The free market respects the dignity of individuals by allowing each person to define success for himself and to pursue happiness in his own way. No external entity declares which job is noble, which business is essential, or which goal is acceptable. You can be a barber or a biochemist, an artist or an astronaut. You decide. In the marketplace, no one else gets to vote on your dreams. The critics of capitalism like to paint it as a system of greed. But by doing so, they ignore the basic truth that self-interest is human nature and that greed is common to all societies, whether they are governed by socialism, communism, monarchies, or democracies. What matters is whether it leads to protection or plunder. Whereas capitalism requires you to produce value in order to get rich, systems like socialism simply redistribute confiscated wealth, usually to those who are politically connected rather than economically productive. Capitalism is the only system to lift millions out of poverty. Poverty was the international norm until the rise of free enterprise at the beginning of the 18th century. Then we began to see steady improvement to the standard of living for the common man. Clean water, affordable food, electricity, medicine, transportation, and education were all made possible by the innovation and competition of the market. Beyond just a political principle, liberty is a moral one. You own your life, you own your labor, and you have a right to trade that labor freely. The government can never provide such a level of dignity because it always functions by taking from one to give to another. It cannot create wealth. It can only redistribute what has been confiscated from the production of others, routinely taking a cut for itself along the way. By contrast, liberty allows people to help themselves and each other without paying a toll to overlords or power brokers. The essence of liberty lies in the practical recognition that no one is better suited to run your life than you are. And the free market is simply economic liberty in action, people solving problems, pursuing dreams, and serving one another by serving themselves. In the final analysis, it is the freedom to choose, the freedom to rise, and the freedom to live by your own design that confirm the moral superiority of liberty.
Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
Everything in the Bill of Rights tells the government what it can't do to restrict my freedom.
Make government more the servant and not the master of us all. In this free nation, we do not choose to be ruled. We elect to be governed.
Do not support your own oppressors. Stop letting the system exploit you.
I think that the real job that we have that confronts us is to somehow be able to sell our fellow Americans on the moral superiority of personal liberty.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.